Okay, let's keep reading some of the 13th Reality, Journal of Curious Letters. We're up to the chapter called Mothball. The sight of a giant, skinny woman coming out of the forest didn't help Tick's anxiety much after his experiences with the freaky thing in his bedroom and the ghost face in the alley. He yelped and started to run down the street towards his home, only making it 2 steps before he tripped over a chunk of ice that had fallen off the back of someone's wheel arch. His face slammed into the fresh snow, which was, to his relief, powdery and soft. By the time he scrambled up from the ground, the enormous woman was beside him, helping him to his feet instead of ripping out his throat. Her face fell into a frown, as though saddened to see him so afraid. Her expression somehow made Tick feel guilty for running away so quickly. "Hello," she said, her voice husky and thick with a strange accent. "Pardon me looks. Been a bit of a tough journey, it has." She stepped back, towering over Tick. Her eyes were anxious and hesitant, and the way she fiddled with her huge hands made him think of Kayla when she was nervous. The gesture made the giant lady seem so innocent, and Tick relaxed, feeling oddly at ease. She had thick black hair that cascaded across her shoulders like a shawl, her face square and homely with bright blue eyes. Her grey clothes were wet and worn, hanging on her impossibly thin body like droopy sheets on a wooden laundry rack. The poor woman looked miserable in the cold, and the slight hunch to her shoulders only added to the effect. But then she swept away that impression with a huge smile, revealing an enormous set of yellow teeth. Tick knew he was staring, but he couldn't look away. "You're huge," he said before he could stop himself. The woman flinched, her smile faltering just a bit. "I'm a bit lanky, I'll admit it," she said. "No reason for the little man to poke fun now, is it?" "No, I didn't mean it that way," he stammered. "It's just you're so tall." "Yeah, methinks we established that. And lanky. Come to an understanding now, have we?" She pointed down at him. "The little man is short and ugly. Mothball is tall and lanky." Tick wasn't sure he'd heard her right. Mothball? The woman shrugged her bony shoulders. "It's me name. A bit unfortunate, I'll admit it. Me dad didn't have much time to think when I popped out me mum's belly, what with all the nasty boogaboo soldiers trying to break in and all. Fared better than me twin sis, I did. Like to see you go through life with a name like Toe Jam." Tick had the strangest urge to laugh. There was something incredibly likeable about this giant of a person. "Bugger what, soldiers? Where are you from?" "Born in the 5th, I was, but lived in the 11th for a season. Ruddy rotten time that turned out to be. Nothing but midgets stepping on me toes and punching me knees. No fun, I can promise you that. At least, I met me friend Rutger there." Every word that flew out of the woman's mouth only confused Tick even more. As hard as it was to believe the sheer size of the lady standing in front of him, the conversation was just as bizarre. "The 5th, he asked. "What's that, an address? Where is it? Where's the 11th? Mothball put her giant hands on her hips. "By my count, you've done asked me several questions in a row, little man, and none time to answer them. Me brain may be bigger than yours, but you're working it a bit much, don't you think?" "Okay then," Tick said. "Just answer one. Ain't it in the prime where they say patience is a virtue? Looks like you missed out on that bit of clever advice." Tick laughed despite the craziness of it all. "Mothball, I'm more confused every time you speak. How about you just tell me whatever you want, and I'll shut up and listen." He rubbed his neck, which hurt from looking up at her so much. His scarf was crusted in the snow. "Now that's more like it, though I must admit I don't know what to say now." Mothball folded her arms, her face scrunching up into a serious frown as she stared down at Tick. No harm in tellin' that you're from the prime, I reckon, and that I'm from the 5th, and me friend Rutger's from the 11th I told you about just now. Wee little gent, old Rutger, looks a little like a ball of bread dough, he does. The poor bloke is short as a field swine and twice as fat. You'll be meeting him too, you know, right directly, if he's about his business." "Wait," Tick said, forgetting his promise to be quiet, at which Mothball rolled her eyes. "You sound like you know who I am. This is somehow related to the letters I got in the mail, isn't it?" "Oh, wait up, that's what he said. You sound like you know who I am. This is somehow related to the letters I got in the mail, isn't it? What else, little man? Did you ever see an 8-foot woman before you got those notes from the master?" Tick paused, his mind churning like the snowflakes that swirled around his body. This giant woman had obviously come to take him specifically for a purpose, and yet he'd learned nothing. "Look, Mothball, maybe you could explain everything from the beginning." She shook her head vigorously. "Can't do that, little man. Can't do that at all." "Then why did you come here? Why did you step out of the woods to talk to me?" "To rub you a little. Give you a bit of confidence, you know. Me boss sent me. Sending me all over the place he is, just to help where I can." "Help with what?" "Not sure, to be quite frank. I know I can't talk about the messages. I can't tell you anything about the master or the barrier wand or the realities or the Kaiupi or the Chikada or anything else to do with them." She held out a finger as she said each of the strange items as though she'd been given a list beforehand. "Other than that, feel free to ask your questions, since I have no idea any more what to talk to you about." Tick rubbed his eyes, frustrated. He tried his best to memorize each of the odd words Mothball had said, burning them into his mind for later analysis. "Miss Mothball, it's official. This is the craziest conversation I've ever had." "Sorry, little man, I am." She kicked the snow at her feet, making a huge divot. "It's important you figure things out for yourself. It won't work otherwise. But, maybe you've seen something strange since you got those letters?" Tick's interest perked up considerably. "Yeah, I have. Just a couple of hours ago I saw this smoky, wispy thing that formed into a face and made a freaky sound. Can you tell me about that?" Mothball's face lit up despite the scary subject matter of this question. "Ah, tingle wraiths. That's what you've seen. I bet me left shoe. Scary fellas, them. Now that I can talk about." "You know what they are? Where do they come from?" "I ruddy well should. They almost killed me friend Rutger just last winter. Here, did you get a little tingle down your spine when the death siren started? You know that's where they get the name from." She paused. "You know, tingle, down your spine, tingle wraith, get it?" "Yes, I get it." If she noticed his sarcasm, she didn't show it. "But what are they?" "That awful sound you heard is the death siren, and it only gets louder and louder, I'm afraid. They can't move more than a few feet or so once their face is formed, but there's no need so long as you can hear that terrible cry of theirs. 30 seconds once it starts, that's all you've got." "What do you mean?" Mothball's face furrowed as she wagged a finger at him. "If any man, woman or child hears the death siren for 30 seconds straight, their brains turn right to mush. Nasty death, that. Seen it happen to an old bloke once. His body flopped around like a chicken with its rudder noggin lopped off. The poor wife finally let him out of his misery. Bludgeoned him over the head with a teapot, she did." "You're serious?" "Do I look like the kind of person who'd make funnies about an old woman knocking her own sweet husband over the head with a teapot?" "Well, no, I guess." Sad it was. She stared at an empty spot past Tick's shoulder for a few seconds, then looked at him in the eyes. "You'll be all right so long as you can run. They never catch you. Just avoid them if you can." "Don't worry, I will." A long pause followed, and Tick began to panic that Mothball would leave without telling him anything else. "So, what do I do? What are the messages for? Who is MG? What's supposed to happen on the day he talked about in the first clue?" The questions poured out, even though he knew what her answer would be before she said it. "Sorry, I can't speak to you about that. Master's orders." Tick wanted to scream. "Well then, I guess there's not much more for us to talk about then, is there?" "Not much. You thought right there, little man." Tick shivered, staring absently at the world of white surrounding them. "Oh, okay. So what do we do now?" "Best be on me way then." Mothball bowed her head, as if she felt as awkward as he did. A few seconds later, she clicked her fingers and looked up. Oh, me brain must have shut off there for a moment. I forgot something. She pulled out a small writing pad and a pencil from her pocket. What's your name, if you don't mind me asking? Her question surprised Tick. You don't know? How did you find me if... Just be needing to verify, I do. She held her pencil at the ready, waiting for his answer. Atticus Higginbottom, but everyone calls me Tick. She scanned the pad with the tip of the pencil. Ah, there you are. She wrote a big mark where the pencil had stopped, then reached into a different pocket and pulled out a crumpled yellow envelope. She held it out for Tick. Here you go, little man. Congrats to you on making a very wise and brave choice not to burn the master's first letter. Now, this should keep you occupied for a spell. Nothing was written on the front of the envelope, but Tick took it, knowing it had to be a second clue. He didn't know why he felt so surprised MG never said all the messages would come through the mail, but it did seem odd to receive 2 on the same day. Maybe MG was sending another kind of message altogether. Never assume anything. Expect the unexpected. He folded the envelope and put it in his pocket, anxious to get home and read it. Thanks. I guess I won't bother asking you any questions about it. Shaping up nicely you are, Mothball smiled. Very well. Until next time, best of luck to you and yours and all that. Tick felt an overwhelming feeling that if she left, he'd never understand anything that was going on. He desperately wanted her to stay, to talk, to help, but having just met her, he didn't know what to do or say. You really have to go? He asked, like a small child begging Grandma to stay just a little while longer. Mothball's face softened into the nicest, kindest expression Tick had ever seen. Afraid so, young man. Got others to visit, you know. Quite weary on me legs, it is, but not much choice in the matter. You'll do well, me bones tell me as much. Will I ever see you again? I hopes you do, Master Tick. I certainly hopes you do. And with that, the tall woman turned and walked back into the thick copse of trees, her large shoulders sending an avalanche of snow off the limbs where she brushed them. Tick stared for a while, half expecting to see a magic puff of smoke or the fiery blast of an alien spaceship, but nothing happened. Mothball had simply vanished into the trees. His life had turned completely crazy, and for some reason it made him more excited than he'd felt in a very long time. He set off for home with a smile on his face. Mothball waited until the boy went around a bend in the snow-covered road before she stepped out from behind the thick tree where she'd been hiding. She shook her head, bewildered by the exuberance and innocence of youth. He was a fine one, this Atticus Higginbottom, and though she knew she wasn't supposed to do it, she'd settled on the one she'd be rooting for in this whole mess. She walked the half-mile to the designated spot and lay deeper in the forest. No one in these parts probably remembered that this place had once been a burial ground, its wooden grave markers long since decayed and crumbled to dust. Poor deadies, she thought, no one coming to pay respects and such. She triggered the nano-locator signal for Master George, then waited for her boss to work his navigation skills. Funny little man he was. A good man, really, as nervous as a midge bug caught in a toad paddy, but a kind and gentle soul when you dug deep down. Why he'd saved her life, he did, and she owed him for it. Several long moments passed. Mothball fidgeted back and forth on her feet, wondering if the restless man had messed up the thingamajig or whatchamacallit on the barrier wand. He was a very precise old chap and usually responded in a matter of seconds, especially when expecting the nanolocator signal, as he should be now. Mothball had been right on schedule. A small deer bounced along nearby, leaving delicate little footprints in the thick layer of snow. To Mothball's delight, it stopped to examine the unusually tall visitor. She was so used to scaring creatures away, it felt nice for a change to see something not turn and take flight. "Watch out for the little man, won't ya?" she said, glad no one was around to see her talking to a deer. "Tough times ahead, he's got. Could use a friend like you." The animal didn't respond, and Mothball laughed. A few seconds later, she felt the familiar tickle at the back of her neck as she winked away from the forest, vanishing in an instant. She couldn't help but wonder what the deer would think of such a sight.